It's a wonderful day, and you're tuning in to the show Rome is in Manila. This is where I share stories on self improvement, language learning, motivation, productivity, time management. Name it, and I'll try to have it. Honestly, this sounds a little corny, but you'll be hearing this intro for all of this month's episodes, so just enjoy the sounds of it while it lasts. This episode starts in 3, 2, 1. And that's right, that's gonna be the last time you're going to hear that intro because, yeah, today is the season ender. It's the end of the season. And I actually originally planned using that intro only for a month. That was for the month of July, but I couldn't make a new intro for every month, so I ended up using it for the entire season 2. And yes, thank you very much for still staying with me. I'm recording this on a Friday night, and because it's a Friday night, I could hear different kinds of background noise. I could hear the dogs, I could hear there are still birds tweeting, and also maybe not so distant from here, there are people singing, doing karaoke and stuff, and that's okay. It's Friday and everyone's at home and they're, enduring this pandemic, so it's okay. And meanwhile, I'm here recording this season ender. Like I said, I'm recording it on a Friday night, so meaning, I'm doing this last minute again. Like how I did when I first started doing this podcast. Like, I'm recording on a Friday night and then I'm releasing it on Saturday morning. And well, there were even times when I would record just hours before releasing it, like recording early in the morning, maybe 6 or 7 in the morning, and then releasing it at 8 or 9. Yeah, I was cramming a lot in the beginning, and that's happening again today. If you're like an avid listener or watcher or subscriber to this channel or to this show, you'll probably be watching this tomorrow on a Saturday morning, and that's nice. Thank you very much for always tuning in at the time that I'm doing the premiere on YouTube. I really appreciate it. There's not a lot of people who actually watch premieres, especially for small YouTubers or small podcasters like me, and that's okay because we're not really doing this for the popularity or for whatever things. For me, when I started doing this podcast thing, yeah, that's what I said. When I started this podcast thing or podcasting, I originally meant to do it just for myself. It's not that I didn't want to publish it or anything, but I mean, my main goal was for myself to develop my speaking skills, my communication abilities, so and so. Yeah. And yeah, since this is the season ender, I think I should take the time to thank all of you who are listening or watching this episode right now. And also, I would like to thank all the guests that I've had from the beginning of season 2 until the end of season 2. There's actually a number of people, so I'm gonna check because I can't remember everyone's names and I'm not sure of the order, but yeah. Okay, so this is like an ad break or a thank you moment for every one of you. First, I'd like to thank my friends from high school. That's Glacy, Chrismar, and Arnila, who was with me during the episode called Balik High School with Jojo, Isa Actas, and Miss GMRC. I hope to see you again, perhaps in an episode soon, maybe during the season 3. Also, I'd like to thank Jay Villanueva. Yeah, we did an episode on improv that was really fascinating, and I really enjoyed the experience. And because of that, I'm actually having a improv class together with him. I mean, he's the one teaching, so it's really fun. And also thank you, Isa Gukor, for the ate tips for college days. Yeah, thank you very much for being with me. That conversation that we've had back then, it was really comfortable. It felt like we knew each other for so long and that we could easily share our experiences and ideas about things. So yeah, thank you very much. And then Garrett Morales, yeah, he shared about skill building, personal branding, and also about future proofing your career. Macy, uh, yeah, Macy, who is still in Australia right now, thank you very much for the conversations that we've had about working, adulting, and of course your new specialty, baking. And also Alex Huang, whom I've met via Hello Talk. We talked about language learning and also Korean social networks. And also thank you to Charlie Monte Alegre. We talked about water, viruses, the joy of teaching, and cooking Chinese adobo in Hong Kong. Yeah, it's like I'm just reading the titles. I'm sorry about that, but yeah, truly, I really want to thank you because the conversations that we've had throughout the past episodes were really meaningful. And I'm not sure about the viewers or the listeners, but for me, I learned a lot having those dialogues or conversations with you guys. And also Andrew Shen, my friend from Taiwan, we talked about books. Actually, we talked about reading habits and the books that we've read like in the past 6 months. Also, I have Eclair. Hello there, Eclair from Pluma, Manila. If you're watching, yeah, we talked about writing online and also about memories. And we did that episode fully in Filipino. We tried. We tried not to speak English words, but we still did. And there's actually a counter for how many words we spoke in English, and it was fun. I lost that one with her. And then, yeah, finally there's Wesley Satira, which was just last week. We talked about films, Filipino films that we think are very suitable for the Filipino audience during the period of the Buwan ng Wika, or the month of the national language, which is Filipino for the Philippines. So thank you, Wesley. Okay, so I am done with my list. Thanking you guys, the people who've helped me build the season 2 of the show. And yeah, actually I think I'm calling this season ender as the 6 things I've learned from 6 months of podcasting. Okay, I think that's gonna be the official title of this season ender. So I'm gonna share about 6 things I've learned. And honestly, I don't have a script. I have nothing prepared on my computer, but it's just here because I'm recording the audio right now. And this makes me feel nervous because I'm not really used to speaking without script. Okay, there's a motorcycle. And that's okay. I'm sure you can hear it, but it's okay. I'll just keep talking. I'll just keep going on because noise, like in this kind of environment, it's inevitable. So we just have to move forward and keep going on. If you hear something that's distracting or disturbing, okay, that's fine. Just focus on my voice. It's like, just focus on my voice. And I don't know, it's like meditational stuff. But yeah. Okay, so 6 things I've learned 6 things I've learned from 6 months of podcasting. Number one would be, if there's something that you've been meaning to try, just do it. Start. Don't wait for like the right moment to arise or for everything to be perfect. Just do it. Just begin. Okay, so that's the first thing I've learned, and now I'm gonna share a story. When I started this podcast, I was actually just using my phone. Okay, so I'm now recording on my phone. I'm recording the video on my phone. But yeah, I just started with my phone and my earphones. I was recording using the Anchor app for my podcast, and that was just it. I didn't have anything else. It was just my phone and my voice and the ideas that I've had in mind. And of course, I have my computer through which I made my podcast art and stuff. But mostly I worked on my phone. So work with what you have and just start already. Although I've just started this during the pandemic, like I started actually during the first or second week of March. I've been meaning to do a podcast for quite some time already, like maybe a year or two, but I didn't really have the. I don't know. I didn't have the mind to start, and maybe because I was afraid of committing to doing a project like this, because I don't know, if I do something and then post it online, everybody's gonna see it. Well, I'm wrong, because it's not everybody that's going to see it. In fact, I only have about 100 people who are seeing and listening to it, and that's cool, because that means, yeah, I don't have to be afraid posting my thoughts online. Or should I? I'm not really sure. But yeah, I think there's nothing to be afraid of as long as you're not doing something illegal. But yeah, I just probably you just have to be careful on sharing your thoughts when it's quite controversial and may cause something to spark something that you don't want to happen. But yeah, people talk about things, people talk, and that's fine. That's fine with me as well. So far, I didn't talk about anything controversial in the past season or in the past episodes that I've had. So it's more like just sharing learnings and stories. So yeah, that was it. So that's the first lesson. Just start when you have been meaning to do something. Just do it. Second, I think it's very important to have a community of people who would want you to succeed at what you're doing. Okay, so that's when I found PodcastPH. It's a Facebook group wherein there's a lot of people who are either making a podcast themselves or just podcast enthusiasts. Like they're just there because they want to know more about Filipino podcasters or Filipino podcasts that are out there. So it's podcasters and podcast enthusiasts. It's a community of those people. So I found that just right when I started. So I started this podcast on March, and around the same time, I looked up for a Facebook group that had that had Filipino podcasters in it, and I found Podcast PH. And a little while after that, we were able to form a group called the Philippine Podcast Directory, and yeah, it's also a community of Filipino podcasters that are helping each other to like build an audience. But it's not just about building an audience, but it's also about helping you grow as a person, as a podcaster. So the people there share technical stuff or ideas and what to do and whatnot. And nowadays we're doing quite a number of fun things. Like actually tonight, after I do this recording and probably after editing for a bit, we're having a game night. Yeah, that's going to be tonight. So it's like a real community of people. Well, it is a real community of people helping each other. So yeah, if you're trying to start something, whether it is a podcast, a YouTube channel, or whatever it is, I think it's really good to find a community that will help you grow and that will support you to be the best kind of whatever it is that you want to be. Yeah, so that's the second thing that I've learned. Third thing, okay, so top of the mind is learn to evolve. Just evolve with whatever you're doing. For me, when I started this podcast, I originally thought that I would be just sharing my stories, my learnings, my whatever, like things I read, things I learn, things I watch, things I listen to, those kinds of things. So I originally thought it would just be me talking from the beginning until the end. And I actually committed myself to be doing this podcast for 3 years. But then after like 3 months, during my first 3 months, I felt like I cannot do this like long term if it's just me speaking. And yeah, probably some people can do that, but I found that it's not really my style. So I started inviting guests, I started inviting people. And so during the second season, you would have noticed that out of all the episodes that I've released, there's actually only 2 episodes wherein I was talking by myself. I'm referring to the episodes, like the main episodes that I'm releasing. Those are the Saturday episodes because I'm still doing another segment which I call 365 Days with Rome. I'm releasing that every Tuesday night, and that's just me talking. So it's another segment. But for the main episodes that I'm releasing, I've had guests for almost every episode that I have released in the second episode, and it was really fun because I think there are ideas that I wouldn't have been able to convey on my own. So it was really good to have these people whom I know to come around and share their stories, their ideas, their opinions on the show, and to share it with you guys, you who are listening. And yeah, so learn to evolve with it. And if you've been listening to my podcast since the beginning of time, I mean since March, you would know that I changed the name of my podcast. I started the podcast calling it the Ando June Show, and Ando June is not even my name. It's a stage name that I've been using since 2016 for like the creative things that I've been doing. But I changed it because I didn't want to use the name Ando June anymore, and because there's actually a more popular person with the same name as that. So I stopped using it and I started using my own name. And so the birth of Rome is in Manila. But I didn't delete like the first few episodes that I've had. I just let them be there. So if you go to the channel on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to, if you like check out the very first episode that I've had, you would be hearing, "Hello, this is Ando June from the Ando June Show," something like that. And yeah, it's kind of funny, and I think it's natural for people to like when you look back at something that you did in the past that you would feel cringy, but I think that's not like how you should deal with it. Maybe you'd cringe a little because you see that, oh, why did I say that, why did I sound like that. Yeah, I think that's the natural response, but instead of looking at the how bad you were in the past, maybe you can look at how much you've changed from that time up to now. So don't feel cringy, but then look at the past, look at the present, and you see how much you've changed, how much you've improved at what you're doing, and probably with the same amount of time. So like for me, after another 6 months, what will that look like? I mean, how will I sound like? What will this podcast be like? So it gives me a more positive experience when looking at the things that I did in the past. That goes not only for a podcast, but that also I think that also applies to my writing. Like I've been writing on different platforms in the past, and some are good, some are bad, some are terrible. So yeah, I think it's just like that. Okay, so I've given 3, right? Okay, 3. Okay, now let's go to number 4. Fourth thing I've learned. Excuse me. Sorry. I'm drinking coffee with milk, so my voice is not perfect. I shouldn't have done that. Okay. So if you're recording anytime in the future or now, don't drink anything with milk before recording because that's gonna mess up your voice and your vocal cords. So don't do that. Don't be like me. Okay, number 4, I think feedback. Get as much feedback as you can. That's very important. Getting feedback. As for me, I didn't get a lot of feedback actually. Well, probably because I didn't ask for feedback that much. I received some feedback from my friends who were like avid listeners of the show, like even if I didn't have to ask them, and that's really nice of you for doing that. Hello there, if you're listening, and you know that you are those people who have been giving feedback to this show. I really appreciate your kindness, your criticism, your brain, your ideas, those things that you have shared with me. So I think getting feedback is really important. So if you're not getting enough feedback for what you're doing, then try to do something to get feedback. One thing I've tried when I was just starting was with the PodcastPH. It's a group of a lot of podcasters. So what I did was I asked for the people to share their favorite episodes for their own podcast, so that I could listen to them, and at the same time I give them feedback. And well, I'm not a professional podcaster. In fact, when I did that, it was actually my first month doing my podcast. But people freely gave their links and all. I think I've listened to 10 or more podcasts, and then after listening to their podcast, I wrote some feedback, and I think they really appreciated it. Because, when you receive feedback from people, it means that you'll be learning something through which you can grow, through which you can develop further. So yeah, you can do that too. Or if you already have a group of people who listen to your podcast whom send them a message, ask them, and yeah, I don't know if you have to give them a token or anything. I haven't. Maybe I should. Yeah. Wait for Christmas and I'll try. Yeah, I think that's it. Feedback. It's very important. And yeah, if you're listening right now and you still haven't given me feedback for anything, and you're kind enough to send me a message or to write a comment on this video if you're listening on YouTube, then I'd really appreciate it. If not, it's okay. Just, I don't know. Just do whatever you have to do. Okay, so for this feedback, okay, 2 left. What else have I learned in this past 6 months? Connections. Connections are really important. Like the people you know. I found it really challenging asking for people to come into the show and share their experiences or share their ideas or opinions and things. Mainly because I didn't know a lot of people. But even though I didn't know a lot of people, I was actually surprised that I was able to pull off the second season of this podcast. Because yeah, I've had more than 5 guests. Maybe I've had 10 guests. Or I'm not sure. I didn't count. Maybe 10. Yeah. And I was fascinated that I actually knew some very brilliant, fantastic people, and they were very willing to spend some time on the show. So yeah, connections. It's not only for podcasting, but for whatever you're doing. It's good to know people who know people. So yeah, there's I'm not sure if it's a popular saying amongst the millennials right now, but people say that your network is your net worth. Yeah, I don't fully agree to that, but it has some truth in it, that your network is somehow represents, or somehow gives an idea about your net worth. So the more people you know, probably the more valuable you are, or something like that. It goes something like that. So connections. Actually, that's what's challenging me right now, because for the 3rd season of this podcast, I'm thinking, how on earth can I invite more people to come into the show and share? Because I don't know. I'm changing the direction of my podcast. If you've noticed, like season 1 was very experimental. Season 2, I've had guests and still very experimental because I didn't have a very clear like theme as to what I was doing. Unlike other podcasts that are very niche, like for example, say they talk about movies or they talk about music, they talk about sports or they talk about news or whatever else, whatever niche they have. For me, it's been very experimental, and I think that's going to be my sixth. Okay, the sixth learning that I've had, so that I wouldn't run out. So sixth is everything is an experiment. Treat everything as an experiment, because I think if you treat everything as an experiment, it means that you are willing to accept failure. You're willing to accept that your hypotheses might be wrong, and that you might fail badly. And I think if you have the right mindset of an experimenter, yeah, you wouldn't be upset if you failed. Maybe you'll just feel a little bad that you failed at something, but then just go on and do the next thing that you have to do. So yeah, treat everything as an experiment. And with experiments, well, what you get are results, right? So results. Of course, there's good results and bad results, but there's still results. You're getting results and you're learning from them. I think most experiments, if not all experiments, you get to learn something, and that's what is important. So yeah, this podcast has been really very experimental for me, and yeah, I'm still finding the form or the shape of this podcast moving forward. Yeah, so those are the 6 things that I've learned throughout the 6 months of my experience podcasting. And yeah, like I said, I have committed to do this like for 3 years, so I still have how many months? That's 24 plus 6, 30. I still have 30 months. Wow, that's gonna be long. That's 5 times what I've had this time. And yeah, speaking of that, I said before I went to talk about experimentation, I said about connections, right? And yeah, I'm a little bit worried because I need to like get more people to come to the show and share. And speaking about that as well, yeah, now this is about what the 3rd season is gonna be like. For me, the 3rd season is, well, definitely it's not the same as the 1st season, and it would be a little similar to the 2nd season wherein I've had guests come to the show, but at the same time, I would like to be more focused on one thing, and that is learning. Like, I'd like to invite people who are learning something which they can also share to the audience. I think there's already a lot of podcasts that invite successful people, and that's really good because we can really learn a lot from those successful people when we listen to them, and they're just full of nuggets of wisdom. But for me, I find pleasure in learning from people who are currently learning something, so that we could experience the joy and the pains and the struggles of learning all together. So that's my current my current view of what I'm gonna be doing in the future. So season 3 is going to be like that. So Rome is in MNL, Rome is in Manila should mean something else. Well, it has never been about where I am. It's just that it's it's catchy. I think Rome is in Manila. At least to me, it sounds catchy. And it doesn't mean a thing. Or maybe it does. It means that I'm here. But I'm not sure if I move somewhere else, will I call my podcast something else entirely? I don't know. It's just gonna be Rome is in Manila, like for a long time, maybe until the end of my commitment. But yeah, moving forward, I'm gonna be inviting people who are learning something which they can share and help us go through the process of learning. So maybe Rome is in Manila, meeting new learners or making new learnings. MNL. I don't know. Just thoughts I've been pondering on in the past. I'm still gonna continue the 365 questions with Rome because I started that originally because, well, I'm gonna share that one on a different episode. Why I started 365 questions with Rome. What else? Season 3 is not gonna start next week. Yeah, so I just said that. Season 3 is not gonna start next week. I'm taking a break. Probably I'm taking a 1 week break or a 2 week break. Not because I don't have anything prepared for next week. Actually, I've already recorded something. Like, I've already recorded with a guest. But I'd like to take some time off from, editing and stuff. And probably, get a better idea of what I'm actually gonna do moving forward. Because, things evolve. So this podcast is evolving. And by the way, I've just noticed that there's no one listening to my podcast on Spotify anymore. Or if there were maybe 2 or 3 or 4 per episode, because most of my listeners are now listening or watching through YouTube. And I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's okay. For me, it's okay as long as we're able to get the message across. That's fine. I'm okay with it. And probably it's because every one of us, most of my audience are experiencing some sort of, are going through some sort of quarantine, so they cannot really go outside. And when you're just at home, I think it's easier to consume video content than audio content. So that's probably why. But yeah, another thing, so right now I'm just blabbering about some updates and things. I'm not sure if you even want to know this, but yeah, I think there would be some people who would like to know what I'm doing and what I'm planning with this podcast. I started this podcast and I said I'm gonna be using 3 languages, and so far I've been true to that up until the 2nd season, although it's not really as much as it was in the 1st season, because in the 2nd season I've only done a few Filipino episodes and I think very little Korean episode, because I've actually started a new podcast channel for Korean, and it's actually a Korean ASMR podcast. I call it Chari, or Constellations, Korean ASMR for language learners. If you're interested in that, I'll put the link on the description of this video so that you can check it out. So, meaning in the future I will not be putting in Korean content in this podcast. So all the Korean content that I have will be in the Korean ASMR podcast, and yes, it will remain as an ASMR. Although, yeah, probably that's what I'm gonna do. So this channel, Rome is in Manila, will probably be in English moving forward. For what reason am I doing that? I think I just want to be more consistent, because it confuses me when I'm doing an interview and then we speak in English and we speak in Filipino at the same time. I think it somehow confuses me, and it's not that it's bad, but I think we could elevate the discussion by focusing on one language. Maybe. Haters, please don't hate me. But yeah, I think Filipino is a very beautiful language, yes, but when discussing something on this, in this kind of platform, and especially if I'm going to be discussing about learning, I don't want to limit my audience. Well, that might stab me in the back. But yeah, so probably all the episodes moving forward will just be in English. But if I have guests that would prefer to speak in Filipino, that would be fine. But yeah, right now I'm looking forward to inviting people who have different kinds of learnings. and I'm not limiting my guests to Filipino guests only, or maybe they're Filipino but maybe they can speak Filipino or whatever, because even some Filipino guests that I've had who are from Visayas, they'd prefer to speak in English because they're more comfortable doing that. So I respect everyone, and yeah, I think for my listeners to, I don't know, I don't know your preference, if you prefer that my guests speak in straight English, or if you're okay with Filipino English or Taglish. But yeah, I think that's how it's gonna be. Am I still gonna do Filipino episodes like separately? I'm not sure. There's already a lot of people doing that. But yeah, I think that's basically my plan for the upcoming third season. And okay, I've been speaking straight for 35 minutes now. My voice is going crazy, hoarse, whatever. Yeah, this is the season ender for season 2, and you've been so kind, you've been so, so thoughtful, listening, watching, commenting, liking, and subscribing. And yeah, thank you very much for tuning in to Rome is in Manila. And I think that's it for season 2, unless there's something I missed out, which I won't be able to remember anyway because I have nothing. Like, there's no notes or anything. Yeah, if there's anything I missed out, I'll probably put it in the description. So thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next season, season 3, whenever that's gonna start. Sorry, but that's still gonna be on a Saturday, so it's not going to be September 5, probably September 12 or later. Meanwhile, my Korean podcast is still gonna go on. I'm still uploading 1 episode per week. And then the 365 questions with Rome, I'm still gonna continue that. I'm just not sure if I would continue doing the video thing, because I started that only this month of August, answering it in Filipino. But moving forward, I'm still gonna think if I'll make it as audio only or do a video as well. So yeah, that's it. Thank you very much. And if you still haven't liked or subscribed, like this video now, subscribe to the channel, and if you want to get updated when I'm uploading a new video, also hit the bell button. And also, if you're on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Anchor, I'd also appreciate it if you would subscribe and also give me ratings, or comments, or feedbacks. That's it. Thank you very much, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye. Bye bye. Why is that like my movement? Peace. That's how I did in the past. Peace. See you. This is long. Okay. See you.